Thank you very much. It's good to be here. It's been a few years since I've been here. It's nice to be back with people in person. It's great. So as you saw today, I'm going to talk about data-driven decision-making. I work at Booking.com. I'm the managing director for the US. And Booking.com is big. You may have heard of Booking.com. Let's get the remote connected to the right thing. It's nice, though, when I push the button on the remote, I do see the P&G slides moving, which is helpful. We'll get that sorted out in just a second here. There we go. OK, so I've been at Booking Holdings, which is the holding company over Booking.com, Priceline, Kayak, Agoda, and a few other travel companies for a long time. 16 years is more than most people stay at one company anymore, I'm aware, but I've moved around quite a bit. So I started at Priceline in 2006 doing financial planning and analysis. It's on the finance side, but I wasn't doing accounting. I was doing analytics. Enjoyed that, had a lot of fun doing it, and did that for about 3 years. And then I transitioned to Booking.com. I moved with my family to Amsterdam, which was quite an adventure. Lovely place to live. As a director, still within FP&A. So again, focused on analytics globally for Booking.com. After about 3.5 years at Booking in Amsterdam, I made the decision that it was a good time to come back to the US and go back to Priceline. So I moved to Priceline and jumped to the marketing team. I think a lot of people went, wait, finance to marketing, that's kind of weird. It's perhaps not normal, certainly not traditional, but I wasn't doing accounting. As I said, I was doing analytics. A lot of performance marketing is analytics. It's data. It's understanding what consumers are doing and trying to put the right ad in front of them in a financially responsible way. So did that as vice president, and then really each year took on a little bit bigger responsibility, became SVP, and then ultimately chief marketing officer at Priceline. I always told people I was an atypical CMO and that I didn't have a marketing background, but there were lots of people on my team with marketing backgrounds that didn't hold it against me, at least publicly, so it's good. I did that until pretty recently, late last year, moved back to Booking.com, this time based in the US as the MD of the US. So fine, you're probably familiar with Booking.com. Planet Earth's #1 accommodation site is what we like to say. It's true. That means we have something less than the 5 billion users that P&G has. I don't think there are 5 billion people on the earth that have actually left their hometown, let alone gone far enough to need a hotel, a rental car, a flight, something like that. But it's a lot of people using Booking.com. In the US, it's a big market for us, but we're not the dominant player in the US. There are people that are even bigger than us for the time being, so lots of growth potential. You may have seen us recently in a Super Bowl ad. P&G, very familiar with Super Bowl ads, has had some fantastic ones in the past. So we had Idris Elba talking about Booking.com and how maybe it's a boring name, but we're really good at booking you accommodations. Entertaining ad, fine. But Booking's not known for its brand prowess. This is not Booking's, I don't want to say we're bad at it. I think we're good at it. But that's not what we're known for. What we're known for is data and analytics. Always dicey to reference an HBR article at a Yale event, but I'll do it. There's an HBR case study about Booking.com, and it references a few things here. That on any given day, we might run more than 1,000 A/B tests on our site. There are quadrillions of permutations of landing pages. That's a big number. And really, if you wanted to test something simple, maybe an ad copy test, you could have it live at Booking.com within an hour. If you want to do it across dozens of languages, maybe it takes a day to get all those translations. And start collecting data and start to understand, is this good or bad? This is the benefit of having a virtual web store where you collect all the data. This is the kind of data that I'll guess P&G wishes they had. There's a lot of things P&G has that we don't, but this place we've got tons of data and it's great and we make good use of it. Fine, so lots of data happening from lots of users and we do what we can to make good decisions off of that data. But data is pretty easily confused. Has anyone ever seen in their career someone misuse data? I don't mean unethically. Hopefully you're not experienced in that. I mean misinterpreted. Have you seen that? Maybe once or twice or always. Yeah, it's easy to do. Not all analyses are as easy as an A/B experiment. And I put a little asterisk on easy because an A/B experiment's not easy, but there's so much structure around it. You know exactly what it is. You set it up. You've got systems in place. You know the different potential outcomes. You know something will be a winner or a loser. It will be inconclusive. And you measure, okay, this is what we accept. This is not good enough. Fine. You make decisions on how to move forward. But more often, the analyses we do aren't so easy, okay? There's an example which I've seen a few times on TikTok. Anybody here on TikTok? Yeah, okay. There's an example I've seen it, both of you. I know it's more. You just don't want to admit it. It's fine. There's an example I've seen a few times there. It's actually an example I've known for over a decade and used, but it's maybe gaining some popularity. It's not a real example, but bear with me and watch it play out. The example says this. You have 3 friends that decide they want to get a nice hotel room for a night. They're out partying, perhaps in Las Vegas, and they go, let's just get a nice room for one night, and let's whatever, we'll enjoy it. And so they go to the front desk, and they say, hey, they should go on to booking.com, but they say, we need a room for the night. And the person says, oh, that room's $300 for the night. Great. So they each pull out a $100 bill. In this fictitious example, you pay for hotel rooms in cash. Don't recommend that. But they each pull out $100. They pay the person at the front desk. They get their room key, and they go. Great. As they're on their way to their room, the person at the front desk realizes, oh, wait, it wasn't supposed to be $300. It's actually supposed to be $250. I overcharged them. Well, we did the right thing, so we'll give them their $50 back. So he gives someone that works there $50 to give back to these 3 men. He goes, they're in this room. Go bring the $50 back to them because they overpaid. Okay, nice. So this guy takes the $50 and he's walking to their room and he's going, again, fictitious example, he's going, it's 3 guys. How are they going to split $50? They don't even expect this back. But if I just keep it, if I steal it, 1, that's unethical. Maybe this person's not so worried about ethics. Because if I steal it, and then the manager asks them, did you get the money back? And he says, no, I'll get in trouble. So here's what I'll do. I'll give them each $10 back. That divides evenly amongst 3. They'll be really happy. And I'll keep 20 for myself. Okay. This is not how you think hotel employees should act. It's not how they act. Fine. So he does. He knocks on the door. He goes, hey, we actually overcharged you. It was actually $270. So here's your $30 back, 10 for each of you. These 3 guys are super happy. So great. So they've paid $270 now. Okay. So as this hypothetical math situation unfolds, you go, okay, so they've paid $270 or $90 each. And this person from the hotel pocketed 20. That's $280, $290. Where's the other $10? And people really struggle with this. It's really complicated. It's not complicated, but when you set it up like this, it's really confusing. Does anybody know where the last $10 is? It's confusing, right? Like the numbers, they're all right there. 270, 280, 290. Where's the last $10? Well, sometimes data is like this, and it's confusing. And people present something to you, and you go, it doesn't make sense. But they use the data, so I guess it's right. Okay, we go forward. It's $290. $10 is gone. Of course the $10 isn't gone. Data decisions can be hard. Are you guys dying to know where the $10 is? I'll come back to it at the end. It'll be very disappointing when I tell you. I've seen things like this quite a bit. I love this. Hey, can you pull the data from this database? Oh, that database is wrong. How about this other database then? No, that database is wrong too. Oh, can you average them? Sure. You can do whatever you want to them. Doesn't make it right. Anyone ever deal with people, executives, anyone that doesn't fully understand data? It's like pretty common, I would argue, everywhere. This even happens at Booking.com, a company that prides itself on data, on how to use data and how to make data-driven decisions. And we do it very well, but we are not perfect. Sometimes these are hard. Sometimes the data lays itself out in such a way that it is very easy, and conclusions are obvious. I love this one. If you want to fix the divorce rate in Maine, all we have to do is get people to stop eating margarine. It's so clear. How many times have you seen something with a correlation of over 99%? This is so rare. And yet, it's not rare at all. These things just naturally happen. Fantastic website by Tyler Vegan where he references spurious correlations. Correlation and causation are not the same thing. And yet in business, we do this all the time. We find two things that are correlated and we go, well, clearly this drove that. So let's make the decision. So the government in Maine should clearly, if they want to reduce divorce, should clearly come out against margarine. It's just so obvious. Sometimes data is really easy like this. Of course, easy doesn't mean right. Just to go back here, this $10, just so you can see, it's not gone. I've set up a math problem incorrectly. This math problem shouldn't be 270 plus 20. It should be 270 minus 20, which equals the cost of the room, which is $250. So the room was $300, minus the 30 they got back, minus the 20 he pocketed is $250. It's just so easy to set up math problems incorrectly. And people look confused because it's confusing, and we just accept it. We just accept it. This happens a lot. I want to share an example where this happened at Booking.com, even where I was involved. In 2010, I was at Booking.com in Amsterdam, leading financial planning globally, and we noticed a strange thing. There was a World Cup finale in July, Spain versus the Netherlands. Great time to be in the Netherlands, very exciting. And in Europe, and in most parts of the world, World Cup football is the pinnacle of excitement. This thing gets everyone watching. It is very exciting. Well, it ended on Sunday, and the Netherlands lost, which was great disappointment to all my colleagues, and me too. It was nice. I was hoping the Netherlands would do well. I was there. It was nice. Fine. Monday happened. Tuesday happened. And you notice when you look at booking behaviors during World Cup matches, nobody's booking travel because everyone's watching what's happening on the game. So you get used to seeing some of these funny trends happen in the metrics. We have metrics that look minute by minute at what's happening. Again, the value of having a digital storefront. Fine. Monday happened. Tuesday happened. Strange thing happened on Wednesday, 3 days after the World Cup finale. The entire business jumped 10 percentage points. That's a big jump. Even with Booking.com growing very fast, that's a big jump, 10 points. So we start to look. We start to do different dives into the data to understand what's going on. What could have possibly added 10 points of growth to the business overnight? We look, okay, maybe it's one channel. There's a marketing channel that someone has put a lot of extra money in. Nope. It jumped across all marketing channels. Okay? Maybe it's some countries. Maybe, if it was the day after the World Cup, I'd go, well, it's just sort of the hangover, and people are now back. Maybe 2 days after the World Cup, I go, people are kind of returning. They didn't really go to work the next day because they were too excited or too upset or disappointed or whatever. So maybe the next day, but 3 days just seemed like too much of a stretch. We looked by country. We know some countries care more about World Cup football than others. We saw it across basically every single country. Even in the US, World Cup football is not as popular in the US as it is in most places, particularly when the US is not participating in any competitive way. Well, it's not that. It's not that. I find it hard to believe that it's World Cup recovery when you see this recovery everywhere. And so we started discussing with senior executives. And we talked to the CEO, and we said, look at this data. I don't know. I don't know. We've looked at like 20 different things. I don't know what it is. And the CEO says, I know exactly. So this is now weeks later. He says, I know exactly what it was. Excellent. What was it? And he said, I've been telling this other person on the executive team for a year that our throughput on our website is too low. We need, effectively, a bigger pipe to handle all the traffic coming in. And I believe that that's the day that the new pipes went live. Okay, well, that would do it. He goes, but check with him and make sure. Okay, so we go. And we talk to him and we say, hey, we're trying to understand what caused this big jump. And the CEO thinks that it might have been this. One, did that happen? Because you always verify. Two, is that the date? Three, does that make sense? Yes, that happened. Yes, that was the date it went live. It started the night before, but really finished early that morning, which lines up with the data. And yeah, it could do that. Okay, great. We've got a story that holds together. We've got an explanation that makes sense. We bring it back to the CEO. He says, great, I want you to present on this in our next business review. It's great, okay? And he wanted us to talk about how not thinking about the business as a whole and not minding these little things can really have a huge negative impact, as evidenced by this massive recovery when we made the change, okay? So several weeks passed by. We presented the business review. And as we're presenting, the chief product officer says, question, if that were the case, we would have seen a 10% improvement in conversion from paid channels. Did we? We hadn't looked. He pulls up the data real time. No, we saw no conversion improvement at all. It was the same. We just saw demand through paid channels go up. So demand went up for us, but it also went up for Google and others. This is not the right time to be finding that what you're presenting on is wrong. But there we were, presenting a completely incorrect conclusion about a problem that we had. It's not great. This is a poor use of data. I talked through these, fine. It wasn't that. It wasn't that. And this is not the only example where something like this happens. I see things like this happen somewhat regularly. A number of years ago, we were looking at where we can get the best deals on hotels. And we have a lot of really good deals. Other people have some good deals too. And we like to think that we've got the best deals. But there are definitely deals in the market to be had. And so we did an analysis where we pulled in some data to look at our deals versus someone else's deals. Because there are times when you can actually sell someone else's inventory. It's crazy insight into the industry. Sometimes if you buy a hotel on one website, it's actually another website providing that hotel room. Fine. So a team did the analysis and came back and said, on average, our prices are better. So we should not do anything to pull in inventory from another company, from a third party. Okay. Thought that was interesting. The data was compelling. The data was split across 10 different destinations just as a sample. We looked at hundreds of properties per destination. We looked at some specific dates. It was a pretty broad sampling of data. And it was clear that there were some times when the price was better, but on average it wasn't. And so the conclusion from that team was, well, let's not pursue it because on average we're better. We'll be worse if we pursue that. Except it doesn't make any sense. No one had proposed replacing all of our inventory with all of the inventory of this other company. Why would we do that? Yes, sometimes they have a better price than us, and sometimes we have a better price than them. There's no reason for us to give up our own better price. We wouldn't do that. We would actually only take a price if it was better to then pass on to our consumers. And so when you stripped out when this third party had a worse price, and you only looked at when they had a better price, there was real value. There was real value there that we started to unlock. And it's just so easy to look at these things and go, oh, there's no value there. It's fine. We don't need that. This was caused by this technology change. It's fine. I've got a story that makes sense, and it's good. No one will challenge it. But having a story that makes sense doesn't make it true. Just like building a model that says your company will be worth $5 billion in a year doesn't mean it will be. And the number of times I've had conversations with people in my career about what something will actually do over time, and their answer is, but the model says this, it blows my mind. I don't care what the model says. I care what happens. The model's to help us understand what happens, but models aren't perfect. They can be wrong. It's so easy to go in the wrong direction based on a piece of data that you misinterpret, based on a story that sounds very good, but is missing something key and important. People say good analysts seek to prove their hypothesis, whatever. Great analysts, though, seek to disprove their hypothesis. If you want to be a great analyst, or you want your analysts to be great, the challenge is not can they prove what they believe, it's can they disprove what they believe. Now, that's a frame of mind shift for most people that go, I've got this belief and I can prove it with data. But you will be far better if you can have your opinion, because everyone has opinions. And you hear people say, oh, no, I don't have an opinion. Everyone's got an opinion, okay? It can be stronger or weaker, but you've got assumptions, you've got opinions. If your main challenge, your main focus is disproving your opinion, you will uncover a lot more truth than if you're only trying to validate your preconceived notions about what things are and where they're going and why they're doing that. There's 2 points I want to call out that I think are important to remember. I actually added a third one. One, it's easy to prove a hypothesis. Could be incorrectly, could be correctly. But honestly, you can shift data around. Instead of subtracting 20, you can add 20. And everyone goes, where'd the $10 go? It's really easy to do that because math is simple and straightforward, but it's also really confusing. And you get so much data, and people are doing and thinking about so many different things, it's just hard to really focus on this stuff. So don't fall for the easy pit of proving your hypothesis, because it's too easy to do that. You'll prove that you're always right, and then you get frustrated because other people don't agree, which is weird. We should be focused instead on finding the truth. And my experience is you do that a lot better when you try to disprove your hypothesis. To do that, it takes an important realization, which is if you're not willing to be wrong in your assumptions, nobody else will be either. You get 2 people that say, I believe it's this. And someone else says, well, I believe it's this. And these things are mutually exclusive. Okay, well, which is it? The reality is it's probably neither. Maybe it's something in between. Maybe it's something totally different. But ultimately, if you go, no, my way is the right way, and you don't know, you should only expect the other person, the other team, your partner, whatever it might be, to take the same approach and not be willing to be wrong. And the less willing you are to be wrong, the less likely you are to find the truth, to find the real answer in the data. I was reading a book which was fantastic that was talking about being wrong. And it was talking about the best forecasters in the world. And they have a unique thing, which is they love being wrong. They don't love being wrong, but they love finding out that they're wrong. Because when they find out they're wrong, that makes them more right than they were the moment before. They love learning that they were wrong. Think about that, right? Who here loves being wrong? I raise my hand, I don't, right? I like to be right. But that's the trick, right? The more often you love being wrong, the more likely you are to be right. And I added this during the last presentation by Curdy because I liked it. So I put it in a different color because I said 2 points and it's now 3. But this idea of finding a mind-opening why. If something doesn't make sense, where's the last $10? It just doesn't make sense. Don't just take it and go, this math's hard. But I know these other guys, they're smart. She's brilliant. She wouldn't make a mistake. Understand why. Understand what you're trying to do with the whole thing. If it doesn't make sense, keep pushing, keep asking questions, keep investigating. Now, this is not an open invitation to always be negative. A lot of people think that if you're going to challenge things, if you're going to keep investigating, if you're going to try to disprove your own hypotheses, that makes you a negative person. I would say on the contrary, to reference what I said earlier, the more you seek out times when you're wrong, the more likely you are to be right. And so it's actually easier to go, this is what I thought. And so I tried to disprove it by looking at this data, and I couldn't. And then I looked at this data, and I couldn't. And I talked to this person that owns this other team. How can I prove that this is wrong? And they couldn't prove it's wrong either. I think it's right. Can you disprove it? If you can, let's talk. You're way more likely to get to the right answers there. When you get to the right answers, you start to love data. People talk about data and how it unlocks opportunities. And it does, no doubt. But people also have very much a love-hate relationship with data. They love the answers that it gives, the clarity it seemingly gives, but a lot of people hate working with it because it's confusing. And a lot of people just go, no, I don't trust the data. It's wrong. Well, sure, people have used data, pointed them in a direction and said the data says this, they do it and it doesn't work. And they go, see, data lies. Well, it's easy to make the data say whatever you want it to say. And that's the reality. When there's so many data points, you can find a data point that proves that the divorce rate in Maine is caused by people eating more margarine. And I'm pretty sure everyone here goes, yeah, that's probably not that. I don't love margarine, but that's not going to cause me and my wife to get into a big fight and ultimately go, okay, that's it. Can't handle this anymore. I want butter. Can't handle it. It doesn't work that way. It doesn't make sense. Understanding data means seeking out when you're wrong. It means finding real opportunities. Sometimes it's hard. Sometimes we have a lot of data and we can do that easily. Sometimes we can't. And in business, we also have to make judgment calls because often there's not enough data. But data is something that you should love. You just have to use it in the right way. I've been fortunate in my career to work with large amounts of data and find a lot of things that seemed like they were amazing insights that turned out to be spurious conclusions, that turned out to not be real. But we've also found lots of opportunities worth hundreds of millions of dollars that we wouldn't have looked at, we wouldn't have considered if we weren't following the data. The data will help us if we use it right. It is an incredible thing.